Hey everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we have the RockyMounts MonoRail 2-bike platform rack, and we'll take a look at how this fits our 2017 Chevrolet Traverse. So the MonoRail is a very popular versatile bike rack because it has the premium features you would expect from your premium racks, but is at a slightly more affordable price. This also has the ability to carry bikes in different shapes and sizes because there's zero frame contact. So we'll talk about those features, but we're going to focus on a Traverse here and talk about things like the amount of ground clearance, how many bikes this can carry, things like that. First thing we'll take a look at though is the tilt away. There's this bright blue lever underneath the rack that you're going to want to pull. Once you pull that lever, you can then just let the bike rack drop down to a tilt in order to open up your hatch. So this way, without having to take the bikes off, you have enough clearance between the door, the pedals, and the handlebars there. You can grab whatever you need, whether it's your waters, your helmets, your backpacks, switch out your shoes possibly. It's a little bit of a tight spot here, but definitely clears. Here's a closer look at how much space between those handlebars. And I do have the smaller pedals on now, but even with the larger pedals, you should clear. So once you've gotten whatever you needed, you just lift up on the rack, ideally holding the rack by its frame and not the bikes, and it snaps into place, and now you're ready to drive. So what types of bikes can this carry? Well, it does have a 60-pound per bike weight capacity, so heavy electric bikes, good. Also, it does have a 5-inch tire width capacity, so fat tire bikes, good as well. With the front wheel mount, rear wheel strap. You can also carry step-through bike frames, carbon fiber bike frames, and some children's bikes. Now to take the bike off, you start by pressing this lever, and then that this engages the strap so that you can pull this up and out, and I like to fold it in itself so it doesn't get caught up in the spokes. Then I like to hold on to the bike with one hand as I press this other lever with the other hand, lift up on that hook, push out, and now we're ready to grab the bike. If you have heavy electric bikes, this might be a little bit trickier since there's a lot of height and you have to go over the rack. That's because there is that wheel chock up front holding the front wheel back, which is good because then you have extra support. But that's just another obstacle you may have to dodge to dismount the bikes. You can see the different grooves in there too for those different tire widths. And when your bikes are not on there, you just push this down, snaps into place, and it's a lot more compact and neat. So we'll do that for the rest of the rack. We will fold these up. While we're here, notice how this pivots back and forth. For those different wheelbases. Maximum wheelbase this can carry is going to be up to 48-inch long bikes. So it's honestly on the shorter side for those longer mountain bikes, but still doable for most bicycles. Next, we'll talk about the measurements of the rack. So from our bumper to the end of the rack, I measure at 32 inches of length added to the back of the Traverse. You already have a larger vehicle, so if you have a really small garage, that's going to be an important measurement. But another one will be ground clearance, because look at how high up the hitch is. From the ground to where you load your bikes up, that's going to be 28 inches of height you're lifting. So over 2 feet. With those heavy bikes, you may want to consider a rack with a ramp. Unfortunately, the RockyMounts does not have a ramp. You might want to take a look at the Swagman Skaha or even the Kua NV and purchase the ramp separately. Now, if you want to make this more compact and portable, you pull that lever that you pulled earlier, but this time you lift up on the rack. Let's make sure those arms don't move. There we go. And now it's secure. Let's take some measurements. Now it looks like it comes close, but there's actually plenty of clearance between our wheel holder, and that's about 2¼ inches of space I see there. Next is from the bumper end of the rack, that's 12 inches, so that's 1 foot. Big difference compared to when it was folded down. You'll want it in this position when you're just driving around town, you're not going out on a bike ride just yet, but you also don't want a rack that takes up too much space. Now, when you do drive around, notice how our taillights and our rear window is fully visible. Our license plate is kind of covered by our front wheel hook, but mainly visible as well. And our backup camera sits in this open space. What's gonna happen is that I would recommend pushing this front hook all the way out. There we go. That gives you even more visibility. You will still see the bike rack in your rear view camera, but you'll be able to see sort of through the bike rack if there's any vehicles or people behind you. Now, if that limited visibility is a major issue for you, just go ahead and drive around with it in the down position. All in all, the RockyMounts MonoRail is a versatile bike rack, great for bikes of different shapes and sizes. The downside is it sits really high up. So if you do have heavy electric bikes and you don't have a friend to help you lift it up onto the rack, I did mention ramp options like the Kua NV with the separate access ramp or the Swagman Skaha with the separate bridge and ramp combo. But this right here was a look at the RockyMounts MonoRail 2-bike platform rack, and we saw it on the 2017 Chevrolet Traverse. Here on our test course, we'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Once we get to the alternating speed bumps, we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or a pothole or driving over uneven pavement. Now lastly, we're going over some full speed bumps, and we can see here the up and down action. And this will just be like driving in and out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway.